13, 14, 15. We should be good to go.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. So, welcome to the virtual film company on Spatial IO. We're here every Wednesday at noon. We moved here from Alt Space VR and are still getting our act together, unfortunately. So, we'll be starting in a minute or two. We're just in the process of setting up. We do have a YouTube channel at the Virtual Film Company. We also have a Facebook page, and we invite you to visit those. And as I mentioned, we meet here every Wednesday at noon Eastern time to talk about all things technology. And today we have one of our founding members with us, Chris, who is going to continue the conversation that we had last week about AI video. And, we've argued a little bit about, or discussed, I should say, whether AI video or AI animation is the correct term. And I think that's one that's still in flux. But Chris is going to talk today about doing it locally, where last week I talked about Caber and Runway, which are cloud-based systems and cost money. So, I think one of the big advantages, and Chris is going to be talking about this in a second, is that if one does it locally, it's free. Well, other than the hardware and everything else that one has to buy. So,
For example.
Chris, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. John, thanks for that nice introduction, and thanks again for showing us your projects last week. And we saw your really nice Mystery Manor piece that you did, the 1 minute, I remember. Is that correct? 1 minute video
Correct.
that you
Yes.
completely generated with AI on two different platforms, Kyber and Runway Gen 2.
Yes.
And yeah, as John already said today, I would like to show that with some restrictions, let's say, you can also do things like that already at home or at work or wherever you will find a PC that is able to run the software, and don't use something like a platform that will charge you money for each frame or 10 frames or whatever you generate. So there are possibilities, and we will see different methods and technologies, and I will try to get around these different terms and so on. I'm not an expert in each of those because it's a wide field, but I think it's important to think about what's possible at the moment, what can be done already, how many possibilities do you have when you do that locally on your own PC. And that would bring me to the basically first step here. So I prepared some images. I would have to change one here. And what we saw yesterday, I'm sorry, last week from John was a method how to create images. A method that is called Deforum. And I think that Kyber is set it up on Deforum. Isn't that the case, John?
Yeah, pretty much. I think all of these products have their roots in, ultimately stable diffusion. And
Right.
so, yeah, if you go looking back at it, Deforum definitely is, I think involved in the mix. But what a lot of these companies have done, and Midjourney is a good example of this, is that they've taken the stable diffusion base and then built on it and made it their own.
Right.
So again, I don't think there is a product out there that there are
Yeah.
probably meta and whatever in research, but commercial products all seem to be based on stable diffusion, at least in my
Okay. I guess so too. That's what I read yet, but maybe what those companies doing. I mean, it would make sense for them to run Stable Diffusion because Stable Diffusion, we have to explain, is a software basically, and that has quite its origin in Germany. That is quite nice by research, and was then bought by a company called Stability AI, and they made, really a business model also all of that. But Stable Diffusion basically is open source. Anyone can download it and have it on their own PC. And Deforum is this little part of this software, Stable Diffusion plugin, however to call it, the model that is able to generate images and make something like a row of images. And you generate your first image by text, for example, giving a text prompt, the first image will be generated. And then you can tell the system, well, take this first image and generate the next frame in a row, a sequence for a video. So you always have to refer to the frame that was before to get something that makes sense. And this method is somehow interesting, but it makes the creation of a video a little bit problematic, because you can imagine when you generate a frame in AI, normally there's always a differentiation to the other image that was created before. It will never be exactly the same. So now you need to find methods and so-called weights and biases and a lot of techniques inside of these AI models to say, no, stick to this first frame and then iterate on that. And you have to explain the model. What do you want to see in your video? It's moving. It's a moving picture. If you move through a world, a room, whatever, with a virtual camera, you need to explain what you see so that the model understands how the next frames have to look. So it is quite a complex task. Right. So now we can see the little definition that is written here on the tableau, and it's called Deforum. Stable Diffusion is a version of Stable Diffusion focusing on creating videos and transitions of images created with Stable Diffusion. Well, basically a very neat and small definition. And what do you need to do that at home? Well, you have to download some software. You need the Stable Diffusion, and basically that is just an AI and would run in a text window. And to make it easier to interact with Stable Diffusion, well, I will show you guys. You need a so-called web UI. You can download that as well for free from the internet. It's called Automatic 111. And you can find that anywhere, basically, when you Google for it. So I prepared that. So I have to bring up my screen a little bit into the front.
Well, as you're doing that, Chris, so with that last image that was on there, that series of images, I almost feel like it inspired even by you talking with the text prompts and everything like that. A game in the future, let's say you're given 4 frames, you could guess what the prompt is and what is actually taking place over the series of the images. Anyways, go ahead. I know that's a random piece of information, but it looked like, I was like, what is the story that's taking place? Because it looked like very interesting images. It looked like there could have been another presence coming into place, what took them from one thing to the next. So it really makes the brain go of actually what's taking place over this series of images.
Definitely. And I will talk about that because I've prepared several little animations, let's say, just to show you the differences, what you can do with this web UI and the Stable Diffusion model. So I'm just switching on my screen here into the web UI, and you see it's quite complex already, right? You have a lot of tabs here. You can load first the so-called Stable Diffusion model. each of those models are trained on photos, mostly, I'll say. Some are more realistic photos, other were trained with content from ArtStation or stock photos or whatever. So you can choose between different weighted models if you want to create a more realistic video or single frame, or if it's more a cartoon or whatever. And when we see the list of options that we have here on our screen, we have a text-to-image generator where we just type in the text and an image will be generated. We have image-to-image where we can drag in an image and that will be altered by the AI, taking the prompt that we will write into consideration. We have some things to fine-tune the technology with extras and checkpoint merger. All that is quite technical and complex in this case. We can train the model ourselves. And we have some extra extensions here. We will talk about SAT Talker later. And now let's just jump over to Deforum. And that model is quite complex because we can see in here now all these options, and there are again several tabs with settings that we have to do before we get a video out here. We can set up a lot of functionalities here. First, we have to take into consideration if you start to do these kinds of videos or also still frames with Stable Diffusion, you need to know where the limits are, especially, for example, from your hardware. I'm running all this on a quite small PC. It's a 6-core AMD processor, and it's a RTX 3060 12 gigabyte GPU. And that is one of the lowest GPUs you can basically buy from NVIDIA today. But I wanted to have one that is quite average, so that when I'm creating, for example, 3D stuff, other people will be able to use that as well. And I wanted to have a graphics board that has enough memory to do experiments like this here. And I can tell you, that's rule number one, let's say. If you want to do something with AI on a local machine, just check that you have enough memory. Memory for your CPU. I do have 32 gigs, that is barely enough. And enough memory on your GPU, on your graphics board. And in my case, it's 12 gigabytes, and that is barely enough again. But still with the setup, and that is below $1,000 in this case, it is able to do stuff. And yeah, before we can do stuff, we have to set up the stuff. And here in the Deforum tab, we have to check first, how big should our video be in the end? By standard, it's something like 512 by 512 pixels. And, you know, today, if you want to make a movie, no one would probably do that in 512 by 512. Normal films today are done at least in 1920 by 1080 pixels. That is the so-called HD resolution, or much higher in 4K, that is 3.8, and so on and so on. So trying to do that on my system will not be possible. To go into a 1024 by 1024 pixels, that is possible with Deforum. I did that already. So to 1K is not a big deal, but much bigger will be a problem in the end, memory-wise. So just for testing, I would just leave, for example, the 512 to 512 in here. We can set up keyframes, and you see there are a lot of settings in here. So those settings, I know that you will not be able to read the text now, but just to say, those settings give you the possibility to define a camera, a virtual camera, that can, for example, turn over time. Because we will generate a lot of frames, a sequence of frames, we can say, well, start with a camera that is rotated to 0, looking forward, and then in the end, it will be rotated over 90 degrees. So you can make camera moves with these settings, and you can make rotations if you like to, for example. Another thing that I will go to show you a little bit more in detail that is really important, that is a small setting here that is called strength schedule. And this is a little number. Here it's by default by 0.65. And that tells the system with a factor how much it should stick to the previous generated image. So don't have more than a difference from image 1 to image 2 of a factor of 1.6. The maximum is 1, so it's a little bit more than half. So don't have more than 40% change in the picture. We will see how this is getting out. I did some tests where I went down to 0.25. So that means a lot more room for changes, 75% to 80% more changes per frame. And I went in some experiments to 0.95. That means almost no change from frame to frame. We will see how that comes out and what that does. But those settings here are really important. You always have to take a look at them when you try to do something yourself. And then we will come to the prompts here in Deforum. And as you can see, I'm not sure if you will be able to read that, so I can read it to you. Here is a prompt separated into 4 lines. And the first line says 0 for frame 0. We're starting with that prompt. Tiny cute bunny, vibrant diffraction, highly detailed, ultra HD sharp photo, and so on, rays in focus, and so on and so on. So it starts, the video will start with a tiny cute bunny. And in frame 30, we will go to a clean cat surrounded by fractals. And in frame 60, we will go to a beautiful coconut. And in frame 90, we will end on a beautiful durian. I don't know if durian is correctly pronounced here. In Germany, we call it the Stinkfrucht. So because it smells so bad. But anyways, that's the different thing. So yeah, it is like that.
Yeah, right.
Funny, yeah, definitely it is. So I rendered that prompt already, so I don't want to do that online now. It would take too much time to do that several times. And I hope I can switch over now and show you the bunny with a factor, and we talked about that earlier, with a strength factor of 0.25. So from frame to frame, there is a lot of room for change. And let's see if I can show you the bunny. Yeah, it works. That is so nice. So that is the first frame. Isn't that a cute? That's a cute bunny, isn't it? Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
would
it's
say
open to interpretation for sure.
Okay. We can talk about that later, John and Eric. So, okay, let's see. Again, take into consideration it's a strength factor of 0.25. What's happening? We are going from the bunny to the cat, to the coconut, and the fruit in the end. Eric?
Yeah, it's a lot of morphing. It definitely went on a far spectrum. Considering for 7 seconds of content, you've seen a lot, which in filmmaking, that's a very powerful technique that is used often. And you know, some of these films, people don't realize how hard it was and difficult it was to morph somebody for that 30-second shot that they showed them like evolve and everything like that. So this really is powerful.
This is one of the reasons I think that, you know, the jury is still out on whether to call this, at this stage at least, animation or video, because I mean, as Chris said, I mean, what it's trying to do is trying to, you know, retain consistency and yet move forward, and it's just so difficult. It's processing power is needed to, you know, be able to do that with any fraction of consistency. It's just mind-boggling.
It is. So now, just to move on, because we have so much more stuff to talk. Let's take a shot at the bunny with 0.65 strength value. Okay, I will share this now. And first you see the bunny looks different. It's still cute in my opinion, but we can discuss that later. Anyways, so let's take a look at the 0.65 bunny. Right?
It seemed like that 7 seconds took a lot longer to pass by
Yeah.
than the other one. The other one seemed like it went much quicker, and this seemed to make
Right.
more sense and not be as random.
That's the point. Yeah, very well put. Yeah, exactly. That's the point. It makes more sense because each frame will have much more connection to the frame before. And you see that here. And now let's see what's happening if you give in a number of 0.85. Let's check for the 0.85 bunny. We can discuss the cuteness again. Let's see this one.
Yeah, really the
I think
temporal
this is the cutest one.
that's important. So
So this is 0.85. You see what's starting to happen.
more consistent.
Can we
Much
play
more
it again?
consistent. Yeah, sure. But you see something that is really interesting here. You can always see till the end, to the fruit, the shape of the bunny somehow, right?
Yeah. All the action stayed centered in the very middle of the frame. Everything.
And
Really
definitely,
good.
and
No, I was going to say, remember that's one of the, I guess, flaws of AI right now is that it tries to build everything from the center. And so, a lot of AI stuff will be centered. And then the other thing is that what it's trying to do is, it knows what the rabbit looks like or the bunny looks like, and it's trying to disassemble what it knows into an image. And so, that's why it's always changing, because, it's taking away and removing parts. And
yeah, but you see, and that's why I love this last video here, and that it really tries to keep stuff, and in this case, the fruits, right? The coconut and also the last fruit here, the Stinkfrucht, still have this shape of the bunny, more or less, right? Like sitting up. And somehow, I mean, maybe in some years, if you really do AI movies, you can probably use that for content, right? To
Oh,
try to
100%.
morph
It depends if
something
it's in
into
context. Yeah, I feel
exactly,
like
absolutely.
each one of these things that you're doing has its own sense of value.
100%.
Well, one of the
it gives
things
you a lot of power.
That I've been realizing lately is that the traditional way of storytelling is, well, filmmaking, if you will, is to get a script and then make the film according to the script. With AI video, it's more, getting the video output and then adjusting or writing the script to fit what one gets out of the machine, so to speak.
Well,
Yeah,
I feel like with
I
what
mean,
you're doing right now, John, you're doing a lot of training as well. This stuff is becoming more intelligent.
Well, that goes back to, what Chris was talking about when he showed us the different models and, mentioned that you can get different effects and whatever with different models. The other thing to remember about models is that some models just don't know about certain things. And, I've run into that often where it just doesn't know. And, so one has to try and make up things, but ultimately, the only way it's going to know is by someone teaching it.
absolutely. And talking about other models, great. Yes, because I already checked two further models, basically. Deforum we talked about already is this take one image and then do the next image, but trying to look back to the first image. But now, is there something in generation of videos that is more like starting to think about the whole sequence and then, make different 20, 30, 40 images out of that. That would be much more consistent and would make much more sense. There is something like that. It's called text to video in here. So we will go over now to text to video. And here we have two models in text to video. And one is called model scope and the other one is called video crafter. And both try to do that somehow.
I have a quick question here. So is the sad talker, is that when you consult somebody who doesn't believe in AI?
We will come to that later. Eric, we'll come to that later. So,
okay.
Because time is running.
Yes.
Where was I? Okay, model scope and video crafter. And I just wanted to show some experiments because I have to say model scope and video crafter need a lot of memory because as I said, they started to think somehow about the whole sequence and then frame out different images for that sequence. So a lot of more memory is used and there are very special image creation models you have to download for that. So the setup is not that easy. And I just generated small pieces of short videos in this case, but it's quite interesting to see how those look. So I have to find the correct ones here, text to video. And yeah, I had a little prompt that I used. I will also show the Deforum in the end again with this. And that prompt that I used was, we are walking through the main hall, entrance hall of Castle Camelot, where a big table, the table where the knights were sitting, is standing. And later on, a prince is coming in and knights are sitting on the table. So let's see what, for example, Video Crafter did with this. So I have to share this. And now you will see it is quite wild. You see what happened here. It's a wild flickering, trying to lay out that room. And this is the second model. This is model scope. I just wrote that into the comment here.
Yeah, it looks like
this is
furniture.
A video. Yeah, the first one was really just jumping furniture.
In-betweening. It almost seems to be just creating the image and then jumping to the next image.
Yeah, that was really wild. And the point is with that model, I can show you again the window. You don't have too many setups that you can do in comparison to
the other thing too is it looks like it's only a 2-second shot. So if you told the filmmaker they only had 2 seconds to convey that, that's not a lot of frames that you're going to have to tell that story.
That's memory-wise, Eric, at the moment, as I explained, that's the problem because it uses a lot of memory. So the point here is I don't have too many possibilities to correct the model. You saw all the settings I can do with Deforum. I cannot do that with model scope, and I cannot do that with video crafter.
Right. So, and that's definitely one of the I think downsides to the system that we should last week there are even less. Yes.
Right. Anyways, probably Deforum based. This is not Deforum. This is a different type. But I have to say, the model scope here, the 2 seconds of the model scope, what I really like is the consistency here. If you take a look how consistent this room is, it is, not perfect. The movement is just like shivering around with a camera. And we have the Shutterstock where it was trained from, probably watermark in here. But when you see these 2 seconds, it is really consistent in comparison to the Deforum creation. So, I mean, this is quite at the beginning now, right? But I think if those models get leaner, so they don't need that much memory, for example, I think they will be very interesting for the future.
Yeah, I mean, the model that I'm waiting for someone to come up with that could be extremely light and not so memory intensive is a simple animation program that's simple character animation, but we'll see.
Yeah, for example. Right. So I just can show you the result from the forum in this case for the knight for the Castle Camelot, what the forum did with that. So I did again 3 comparisons with different strength, and we know strength is how much change will there be from frame to frame. And so this is the same prompt basically, and I'm starting with the strength of 0.7. And this is the result, So it's always running twice. And then we have the same prompt with a strength of 0.85. And we see that the princess and the knights are barely coming in. And with 9.5, there's no one coming into that room anymore. Right? Because it's so consistent that all the detail is just left out. So, and this is something that you have to know when you're working with this. Those things have a very, very big influence on what you create.
Yeah,
So
welcome, Gus.
here.
We are doing a presentation here. This is the Virtual Film Company. Take a seat and
please mute yourself.
Welcome.
Please mute yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we're talking about AI video here. Go ahead.
Could you sit?
Sorry.
Could you sit down as well? Thank you.
That's nice. Thanks. Right. So now, I already said that I also have a little tool here that has also to do with video generation, and that is called SAT Talker. And SAT Talker is something that is using an image and an audio file. You can generate an audio file and have an image, for example, of a face of a person. And you just record some speech, or you take it from the internet or whatever, take a frame from a well-known person from whatever, and SAT Talker is going to generate something like a deep fake. We know deep fakes where President Obama or Angela Merkel was talking stuff that they never did because it was just, manipulated images in AI. And SAT Talker is somehow doing that in a simple way, but it's quite funny. So I can show you some interesting insights here from the Virtual Film Company. We had a visitor I want to present you. And so let's see what that is.
Hello, I am Albert Einstein. I recently had the pleasure of visiting the Virtual Film Company, and
All right.
Good job. Good job.
By what I saw, the technology used in this company is truly groundbreaking. It has the potential to revolutionize the way we create and experience films.
I love this.
So thanks to Mr. Einstein, I think
Chris,
his
we're
expertise
going to have to use that on our
I think that's a short. I think that should go up on a YouTube short right there.
Yeah, definitely. Good job.
So
just with that, that's your voice that...
No, that's Albert Einstein, 100%.
Oh, really? Oh,
amazing,
okay. So,
amazing.
okay, so you
it's my
were
voice.
able... That's your voice?
Ha 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 ha.
And you
He fooled
took
you.
an image, still image of Albert Einstein, right?
See,
Correct,
like when
yes.
I see stuff like this, I think like of all the possibilities of pictures of the past and quotes by like Einstein, and now to be able to almost have him read a quote and then from a picture of his bring it into existence. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I've got some more, like this person.
Hello,
I'm Frank. I want to tell you I'm a cool guy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Name is Abe Lincoln. You about the virtual film company. Tell you it is amazing.
So
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
I mean, a lot
After
of
he
people
got done
speaking
chopping
for
down his
virtual film
cherry
company.
tree. Yeah,
That is,
this is great.
yeah, and it's really a very simple process. You just put in the image, you just upload or load into this web UI here. Can show you again. You load in this audio file that you did before, and you press generate, and it will be done within half a minute. And
See, that's great.
then you can put it together and or back, however.
And I feel like this is some great work for some voice actors who have, like, let's say, a very similar voice and can do an amazing impersonation of some of these famous people, to then now have them go and create content of these famous quotes from their past of these people and really make it authentic. It's great.
Right. Yeah. A lot of possibilities there. And again, I mean, it did not look that fantastic, in my opinion, the movement of the mouth and stuff like that. But again, this is a free tool that you can download. And I guess when those AI models in the background will be trained 2 years more with, I don't know, tons of different data in this direction, it can be very, very realistic in the end, right? And
no,
here,
it's getting there. I mean, one of the programs that I played with enables characters to sing, but one needs to be very careful in choosing the character, and in particular the background, and if they're wearing a hat, because the more head movement there is, the more tearing there is between the person and the background. So, I mean, it's not perfect yet, but it's amazing, that this can even be done now. So
definitely. So yeah, that is basically what I wanted to show you here in Stable Diffusion in this web UI. There are, as you can see, lots of different things that you can do in this one setup. And here you can see all the extensions that I'm using. It's all of that stuff here is open source. You can go download it for free. You don't have to pay anything. What you need, again, is a quite suitable, capable PC with a good GPU. Take as much memory as you can, and then you can go for it. So it's really not too bad. So I wanted to jump on the next topic because we just have 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Because
well, as you're jumping onto that, this sad talker, to me, the guy didn't look sad when he was talking. So I think it's a very interesting, I think more of people who are talking about not being a fan of AI. That's what I would have thought when you went in there. You could talk to somebody who is not, they're sad about all of the stuff that's taking place. So I think it's an interesting prompt, but go carry on, Chris.
Right. So moving away from Stable Diffusion in that case, and taking into consideration that we have much more possibilities with making films today. We are using 3D models. We are using so-called compositing, like just bringing pictures together in After Effects or whatever. And also here we can get a lot of help for filmmaking from AI systems. And I want to show you a little experiment that I did several weeks ago with a software called Wonder Dynamics. And let's check for a little ride into the past of filmmaking, let's say. And here we go. You probably know that movie. It's called Metropolis. It's one of the classics that is out there. And I did a little experiment with that. So let's see how it worked out. check that out.
So it's interesting. 1927. We're coming up on 100 years about. This is cutting edge.
So this is a scene where a person is searching for his girlfriend, and he's searching everywhere and trying to find her. And
This was generated by the computer, Chris?
that's the original scene. And here,
Oh,
this is
okay.
generated
All right, okay.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. He looks like he consulted the sad talker.
Yeah.
So that is what
Okay.
Wonder Dynamics made out of that. And here's the
Oh my
comparison,
gosh.
side by side.
Oh my gosh.
So you know what we should do here, Chris? I think would be an interesting experiment is that Runway Gen 1 enables one to run video through their system and apply similar effects to this. And we should, if you could send me this clip, I will run it through Runway through a few of their things, and I'd be interested to see the difference between the two. Can you send that to me?
Sure. Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you.
there are a lot of ways of doing that in the end. So what I was interesting to see here is, and you need to know what kind of process is going on here. Wonder Dynamics is a platform. You basically just do something very simple. So it's not even worth to show that here, the process, because you just upload the clip, this original clip on the right-hand side, and you select a person in the clip. So it's easy. It's just one person. You click on the person, and the AI is detecting the person, and then you choose a 3D model. And this robot guy here was really perfect. So he was already in stock there. I just said, take this person in.
You chose the model.
So,
Okay.
right? This is a 3D model. Exactly. That's the point. And what Wonder Dynamics did here, the process, what you normally have to do if you would do that the classical way of using visual effects here would be, first you need to create a clean plate. So you need to paint out the actor to have the clean background, and then put the robot model, 3D model on there. Then you have to track the motion of the original actor and apply that motion to the 3D model, and then you have to compose it together. And all that was done automatically. I didn't do anything in this case. By Wonder Dynamics within 1 hour for this sequence. And if you would have done that in the classical way, it would have taken much more time. Can guarantee that.
Many
But you know
On top of that,
that just the mention of that hour is, that's one of the things that I personally struggle with here with the workflow, is that one has to wait so long to see what the result is, to make corrections.
Well, that's just where
That
everything's
they
at
do.
right now.
but first, that is the state of the art, in my opinion, now, and you have to see how many things are happening here. And I will show you some of the parts that they send you. And I also prepared a 3D scene. They sent you a 3D Blender scene with this 3D model,
okay.
and
Cool.
the whole thing. First, I just wanted to see here in the comparison. Take a look on how precise do you think they got the motion. That's why I choose that scene.
The motion is really good. The character, not so much. That's the...
And I thought the one thing that was interesting is on the Wonder Dynamics version of it, his hand could kind of was kind of almost through the wall a little bit earlier in the scene. On the other one, I was like, why did it choose to have that, because that obviously
it's not masking the foreground.
Right.
That is correct. Right. It should have made another foreground mask that it did not do. in this case. So you would have to rework that by yourself if you want.
Yeah, but everything that was done, for what it did, it's still amazing, and it's definitely not perfect, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Definitely. And again, you get all the different pieces delivered, and you see there are still masking arrows in here. Like here is a part of the hat is coming in, and on one frame the original actor is coming through again. That's also quite funny. Don't know if I can find that frame. So here is a lot of him coming. Yeah, here it is. So
that's why
yeah, it's not perfect.
It doesn't look good because you're having that bleed through, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Send me the footage, because I'd be really interested to see what Runway does with this and compare it, because
Right. So
Great.
I have to take a look on the files to show some of the results there. Couldn't put everything up here in my tools. That would have been too much. So for example, yeah, we have the clean plates, and I mean it's somehow it's really interesting that they really generated. I don't do that in here.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you had a step. I mean, this is a good example, the way his hand goes behind the wall for, there's definitely some interesting challenges that you presented it with. It wasn't some just regular background where somebody's walking around a room. Like there was some dynamic movements.
That's the point. I wanted to see a real dynamic movement. And on top of that, the tissue thing that he has in his hands, you can see that in here, and you see how they masked out the original actor. It's quite fun. You can see that here it's automatic, whatever kind of stamping that they did. It's quite funny. And when you did that yourself in visual effects, for example, it's quite cool to see how far or how good they did that or how bad, right? So now here is the person is masked out. It's hilarious somehow. So this is something that you get the full, the full shot in single frames with the clean plate. So if you just want to have a clean plate, you can let them do it. For example, this is one result that they send at you. And what else
Chris,
do you get?
You have to notice what the frame per second was on this.
I think it was 30.
30, okay.
Because the original, I mean, the original from Metropolis will have been at that time about 20, maybe, probably. And this is something like that what I took here, the original footage is taken from a restored version, so that is anyways already altered in frame rate. So we have textures, we have the full scene, we have alpha masks as well that we received. So
the thing that I think is very interesting,
alpha masks.
Are you? Yeah, okay, there you go, because the screen wasn't changing back there. So this was shot in 1927 as well. So we're right now 4 years from that. I wonder where we're going to be at, how fast everything's moving right now, 100 years from when that was all put together.
Well, the interesting thing here, a little tidbit, is that I think it was yesterday or the day before, an announcement was made that the remake of Metropolis has been cancelled.
Yeah, I mean, there had been so
AI
many.
to get a little better.
That might be.
Yeah.
That might be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just, I like this Wonder Dynamic thing because it combines so many different things together, right?
Well, it's nice to get the masks out of it. I mean, so it's spitting out all of these as separate files. So you're getting that alpha channel out of there.
Correct.
That's nice to have just in itself.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
So if you have a sequence that you want them to do for you, at least you can start to work on that. Use that and then elaborate on it. So you get all the parts to combine it yourself if you like to. No problem. That is really cool. So
Yeah,
I see that we are already running out of time, so I don't think it makes too
unfortunately,
much sense to show the
yes.
scene.
Did you get the game? Did we get the GameStop product placement shot in here? I think it's great that this guy is promoting GameStop in here. Yes, this is, and he's quite the mascot. I don't know if you want to come over here on the screen, but I think like, well, now
Right.
Tesla.
So-
Okay, he's definitely getting the product placements in here. He is. All right. Sorry, Chris. Go.
Well,
So the
we're
last part-
almost to, good. Go ahead, Chris.
So just to show the very last thing I wanted to talk about is taking it on from this case now. If you think about having a real film scene and then putting in a 3D model, for example, well, what we would need additionally to that, for example, would be a completely generated 3D scene from a film scene, for example. And this is now happening with a tool. At the moment, it's something that is in research called Neural Angelo from NVIDIA. And they do just take a video and make 3D models out of that. So it's amazing.
Is that a play on Michelangelo, do you think?
No.
I
no.
guess so. Nothing to
You know, I mean, that's
Right.
so cool, and video stuff is so cool, but it just it reminds me again of what you said when you first started about, just the processing power that's required to do all of this.
Sure.
Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, the point is just, what you can do. We saw what Wonder Dynamics did with the Metropolis scene, and here we see what out of several single frames or a video sequence, you can generate quite
Well,
good
how
3D models in the
amazing.
end. So it's
How
amazing.
amazing to scan some of the old artwork and architecture in museums, like when you're seeing these things like artifacts that now they could get scanned in a museum. You can't go in and touch it, but in this space,
Yeah.
it's like something that you could probably interact with and whatnot. Yeah.
Later on, you could print it on a 3D printer or whatever. For architects, well, just let a drone fly somewhere and then make a 3D model out of that, right?
Yeah.
Like the scanning process is much easier than before. So also that is happening. So for filmmaking and, a lot of things are happening at the moment. So it's, those
Interesting
things
times.
I wanted to show.
Excellent,
To
Chris.
me,
This
to
has been really
get actually like filmmakers, I think some of this stuff just got to blow their mind seeing it happen. Like what? How is this even happening? These possibilities. It's very impressive.
Definitely. Right. That's basically it in a fast forward, let's say.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Chris. And just to remind people, this is the Virtual Film Company. We do have a YouTube channel at Virtual Film Company. We also have a Facebook page. We also have a LinkedIn page. Please visit. We need people to volunteer. We are a nonprofit based in Michigan, and we're here every Wednesday at noon Eastern time, where we talk about technology and related topics. And if I remember correctly, next week we're going to be talking about Real Illusions products, iClone and Character Creator, and how one goes about creating a character and animating it. We'll go over the basics. So really appreciate everyone attending, appreciate everyone watching. Any closing comments, Chris? Mystery?
Well, that was fun. So let's see next week.
I mean, to me, just every time I'm seeing these different things, it's as somebody that creates, you just look at all the possibilities that can happen with these things, and just I feel like the future is going to be really amazing with these tools that we have. I know some people are not quite happy about it, and I don't know. This is great. Thank you for, bringing to the light these different things that people can do and what can be created, because it's showing the possibilities of where we're going. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
very
thank
welcome.
you,
It was
Chris.
fun. It
Thank
was really
you.
fun. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, next week, same time. See you around.
Bye-bye.